Would introduce yourself and your associates, and then the question of can you operate within the mayor's proposed budget. Afterwards, the floor would be yours for any presentation or statement you'd like to make.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to be before you today. Let me say yes, I appreciate very much the flat funding, which means no reduction in funding to the Metropolitan Action Commission. We also look forward to the opportunity to have our team included in the 2.5% COLA increase. Joining me today to my right is our board chair, Dr. Lavinia Steele, and to my left is our acting CFO, her first time at a budget hearing, so she's a little nervous, Ms. Vijay Lau. And then also joining us in the gallery are the members of our leadership team. So I will just make a few comments, if that's okay, and then I'll look forward to any questions you all have. As you all know, the Metropolitan Action Commission serves as the safety net entity for Davidson County. We are proud of the work of our team, serving over 20,000 residents in Davidson County, including children as young as 6 weeks, all the way through senior citizens. We are proud of our team, and we're grateful to the Metropolitan Action Commission staff for their incredible work and their dedication to the citizens of this city. Let me thank this council and the administration for their continued work with us to help to make sure that the residents of this city receive much needed services. Those are my comments at this time, and I'll take any questions you might have for us.
Council Lady Moore.
Well, serving on the board in the past, I always have enjoyed going to your meetings, so it's really awesome, and thank you all for being here today. I just have a couple of questions on page, is that J75-2? I was looking at your strategic issues and was just trying to understand. It said federal changes in Head Start, early Head Start have mandated increased academic qualifications for teachers and assistant teachers that must be achieved by 2016, increasing the difficulty of the agency to find qualified staff for Head Start classroom. Could you elaborate on that?
I will. The federal government, the Head Start program now requires that all teacher assistants have a minimum of a CDA. Whereas before they could have a high school diploma and work as an assistant in the Head Start classroom. We actually require an associate's degree, although we will hire with the CDA because we believe that's where the federal government is moving. What we've found, however, is that the pool of individuals with a CDA in Davidson County is not extremely high. So in many cases, we have had to either train or pay for staff to be trained to receive their CDA or extend our recruitment efforts in that direction. So that is what it's referring to. It also now requires, or has required for a few years now, that all Head Start teachers have a minimum of a bachelor's degree. We moved to that several years ago, so that was posed less stress on us in terms of the recruitment effort. It does pose, however, greater stress on us in terms of the pay. Because oftentimes teachers with a bachelor's degree would like to be paid at the same level as a teacher in metro schools, pre-K. And so those are the challenges that we are referring to.
Okay. Now, is it helpful to have, like you have the, at some state colleges where you can get a 2-year degree free. Is that something that you could tie into, or?
We expect that will be of help to us, but I should mention that Tennessee State also wrote a grant which helped us greatly in the last several years, in that our team was included as a part of Tennessee State's grant to help them get their CDA and their associate's degree. So that was huge for us in terms of meeting the federal mandate. We have met it at this point, but when you have turnover of staff, it's not always as easy to find those replacement staff easily. So we are also partnering with TSU again to look at being included in a grant that they've also written to help increase credentials of staff in the Head Start program. This is becoming a national issue for early childhood programs. We're very fortunate in that we're early and our pay tends to be better than child care facilities, but we anticipate it could be an ongoing problem.
Okay. And my last question, under goals you have by 2016, I'm always interested in employment. Customers will experience a decrease in barriers to initial or continuous employment. What does that mean?
One of the things that we started was the MAC for Jobs program, and that program is specifically designed to assist Head Start parents and our students who go through our adult education program in receiving employment. And so for the upcoming year, through our community services block grant funding, which has an increased emphasis on employment now versus some of the emergency services we provided in the past, we will be able to provide additional services to our Head Start parents and our adult education students around helping them to get the training for jobs, but also to help them get placed in jobs. And that's working, as we have done, in a partnership with NCAC.
Oh, great. That was one of my questions as well. Do you partner with them as well? Because they're really great to work
Right,
with.
we do, and just so you will know, the way the partnership goes is they send people to us who need the GED, and then once we assist them in getting the GED, we send them back to NCAC so then they can help them with some of the job readiness-related skills.
How many students graduated this year?
Well, we haven't had graduation
not
yet.
yet.
We have it actually in June, and
Okay.
as you know, their scores are still coming in, so at this point, we don't know what the final total will be.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Council Lady Allen.
Thank you. Thank you for all the work y'all do. I know it's important. I just have a question about coordination between you, social services, NCA, and other groups. Is there a way to streamline how many people, I'm not sure caseworkers is the correct term to be general enough, but how many people are helping families find the services they need? Is there one person that directs them to everything, or is there one person for each agency so that, because I know each caseworker is burdened because they've got more families that they can deal with, but are there caseworkers for each agency, and there's some way to streamline
We have different caseworkers. For example, the Head Start program requires you to have what's called family service specialists. Their specific function is to work with a certain number of Head Start families in order to help move them, whether it's into employment. They do the recruitment for the Head Start program. In our situation, our coordination with social services is around, oftentimes we have parents that have needs that we don't as an agency provide. So in that situation, they're going to get a referral to Metro Social Services so that their case managers who do a more in-depth case management around sort of long-term issues would assist us with that. The same would be true in the case of, let's say they have a person that they're working with that they might be doing extensive case management with, but that individual might need assistance with their energy, or they may need some place for their child to go to Head Start or to be in childcare. They're going to then make a referral to our organization to work with us around that family. So we do have our own respective teams, but there is a process of coordination that we use. NCAC, I think I mentioned a little bit about them a few minutes ago. They do a bit more extensive work as it relates to the job placement issue, but as you know, their emphasis is not on families with low income. Metro Action Commission's emphasis is on families with low income. So oftentimes, the barriers that our families experience, we have to help them address those barriers before they can be referred to NCAC. And the example I gave earlier was the GED. We also work with our families around expungement, things that really keep them from being able to walk right into NCAC and get the assistance that they would need.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Bedney.
It's been a pleasure serving with you on your board.
Thank you.
Last year. It was it was a teaching moment for me. So thank you for all the work you do and your staff. And the board is so diverse. It was impressive. So thank you. So the question I have is, like a couple of years ago, we asked NES to make a program work that will set some money aside to help people pay for their electric bill. I know for experience that winter and summer tend to be very dangerous for elderly, for people that are at risk living in houses that are in bad shape. And I know you have a program where you help some homeowners or people in need take care of that. So the problem with poverty that we have in Nashville, I don't think most people watching this on Channel 3 perhaps have a comprehension of the scale of the need that is out there. So all this to say, do you think that adding staff to your office to go after more grants and trying to leverage resources is a way to go about it? Is it to increase the funding for your programs or both? I was just hoping for some general feedback on how to address this. I volunteer regularly with nonprofits, and we go into homes, and it just breaks my heart to see the level of poverty that some of our fellow citizens live in. So,
our structure is slightly different, and I think the design of Metro Action Commission, particularly as it relates to energy assistance, for example, is that we are a one-time assistance structure. So the design is not that this is someone who will be able to come to us repeatedly during the year. Our focus is this is someone who's having a crisis. We can assist them with that crisis at that moment, and then they would move on to other services that might be in the community. The opportunity to look for additional funding is something that we would always appreciate. So a staff person who would be dedicated to that would be an important piece for us. A grant writer, of course, would be important as well. But I think our structure is not designed that we are an ongoing, someone comes to us over and over again for assistance, because really Metro Action Commission is to help people move to a place where they're not in constant need of us in that way. There are other entities in the community where the design is that they will come multiple times, but that's not the design for Metro Action.
Does that answer your question, Councilman?
Yeah.
Okay. Councilman Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for being here. My question, I think, is going to piggyback off Council Lady Allen's question, but more specifically talking about the family services specialist position. How does that differ in compensation from someone in social services working in family services support, and what is the justification for whatever difference in compensation may be there?
It differs greatly, and the justification is because our positions, as you know, are federally funded. And there's only so much that the federal grant, particularly Head Start, is going to provide around salaries. Head Start says we will give you 80% of the cost of this program, but the remaining 20% is your responsibility. That's one of the things that you will note as a difference, not just in that position, but a number of positions within Metropolitan Action Commission, because the majority of our salaries come from the grant itself and not from local funding.
Okay. Have you all done an analysis of what it would take to compensate those people at a fair rate? Have we seen those numbers?
We've done an analysis, so we do know what it would take to move them to those numbers. We've done that analysis.
Could you give me an estimate right now?
I can. When you look, well, let me explain a little bit about it. First of all, the beginning salary is 1 point. But where we really lose ground is over time. So, and our teachers are also an example. So as we've tried to move our salaries to begin with Metro Schools, for example, because we're an open range department, our staff are not guaranteed steps after a certain amount of time. They're not guaranteed cost of living increase. So even if we're able to sort of have them at a similar starting point, because the funds are not there to make sure they keep up, over time they lose ground. Okay. But certainly in terms of some specific numbers, we'll be more than happy to share that with you.
Yes, send them to me, please. Thanks.
Okay. Council Lady Lancaster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your presence here today. What I wanted to ask you, when volunteers come in to volunteer in the agency, and they come in year after year, do they have to continue to fill out a form for a background check and a police check?
If they are a long-term volunteer, they go through a full background check. Now, if they're continuing with us, like they were a volunteer this year, and then they continue to volunteer, and I'm looking at Lisa McCready to make sure I'm getting this exactly right, then no, we use that information that we secured on them from the beginning. So we don't actually have volunteers that continue year to year to year. Now, I will just tell you, if we had someone who was doing 3 years with us, we would want to do a background check again because things change and things happen. Our team are part of a random background check pool, and so we would have any long-term volunteer should be looked at more than just once over a 10-year or 5-year period.
Well, I was referring to the North Nashville AARP chapter. They do a Christmas party every year, and they had asked me to ask you. They've been coming for about 8 years. Could you take a particular look at that and then
sure
maybe
will.
give me a call back?
I sure will.
All right. Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all for being here as well. Thank you for the incredible amount of work that you do on behalf of our citizens in this city as well.
Thank you.
My question is about something that I don't think you provide funding for, and I just want to see if efforts have been made to explore working with either the state or some federal entity, whereas when people are out of work for at least 6 months, 8 months or more, is there an opportunity to enable them to be able to tap into funding for, like what Councilman Bettany was speaking of, people who are in a crisis kind of hardship situation. I know that there have been many constituents that have contacted me asking for those services, but unless you meet the qualifications of being below the poverty or at the poverty line, and this is somebody who has just had a job, that's lost a job, has been out for at least 6 months or more, and is looking at the possibility of losing their home and things of that sort. So are there any efforts to be able to help citizens who find themselves in that type of crisis situation, especially with the fluctuating economy that we've most recently experienced?
Let me share with you what we have done in that situation, and certainly we will follow your advice that we look more deeply at what types of funding might be available. We have some dollars that are local dollars that we use for people who fall just outside of the requirements or threshold on the federal number. And so there have been situations, and more especially with our senior citizens who've experienced certain hardships, so this doesn't fit in terms of people who with employment, that we have gone before the board and asked for an adjustment to those requirements to allow us to help senior citizens in particular. And those were situations where they had extremely high bills because of the weather. And so in those situations, we did ask for an adjustment to the funding credentials or criterion. As you know, that's limited funding, but it's certainly something we could take a look at in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Seeing no other council people in the queue, that concludes your presentation. Thank you. Thank your associates for being here.
Thank you all very much.